was hidden beneath it. Of course, that didn't prove much. It wasn't exactly an inventive place to leave a spare key. The Mini Cooper's headlights were at just the wrong angle to illuminate the front door, so Mabel had to feel for the deadbolt the estate's lawyer had arranged to be installed. She ran her hand over the wood panels and bumped up against something affixed to the center of the door. It was metal and raised, but in the completely wrong place to be a lock. She felt along the edges of the metal, tracing an oval with a flattened base, which sparked a memory. It was the shape of a pineapple, she thought as she tested her theory by running her fingers over the center of the oval, finding the cross-hatching she was expecting. Mabel didn't have to see it to recognize the foot-tall brass pineapple door knocker. She was definitely in the right place. Aunt Peggy had adopted the pineapple as her talisman when she'd made the life changes that had brought her here. If she could have grown pineapples in New England, this would have been an orchard instead of a garlic farm, but Aunt Peggy hadn't been willing to relocate to the tropics for her midlife crisis. In any event, it had never really been a matter of wanting to eat pineapples so much as believing in what they symbolized. Hospitality. Almost to the exact same degree that Mabel preferred solitude, her aunt had craved companionship. The lack of frequent client interactions was about the only thing Aunt Peggy had missed from her career as an accountant. Now that Mabel was confident she was in the right place and wasn't about to break into a stranger's home, she quickly found the deadlock and opened the front door. Without conscious thought, she bent down to find the pineapple-shaped doorstop right where it had always been and used it to prop the door open. Her muscle memory was stronger than her conscious memory, so she let it guide her to the light switch. She flipped each of the 3 switches in turn with no success. The front porch lights had probably burned out after Aunt Peggy died, and no one had been here to replace them. Aunt Peggy had always left the porch lights on, so visitors would feel welcome. There were probably some spare bulbs around here somewhere, although Mabel didn't particularly care if the exterior was lit. She didn't have her aunt's desire to encourage visitors, and she seldom went out after dark, since that was when she settled down to do her job, hunched over her laptop. If she changed her mind and wanted exterior lights, she could always have the bulbs overnighted from an online merchant. For now, she just needed to get her laptop and duffel bag out of the car so she could get settled in. She could do that without porch lights. Mabel pocketed the front door key and turned to go back to the car. She took the first step from the porch and felt something move beneath her foot. She flailed and grabbed the railing, catching herself as a large and loudly irritated tuxedo cat raced across the corridor of light in front of the car, in the direction of the barn. She kept her grip on the railing for a moment, waiting for her pulse to return to normal. She could have been killed tripping over that animal. Cats were an important part of farm life, but shouldn't Aunt Peggy have found a way to keep them away from the house where they were a hazard to her beloved visitors? Mabel continued down the steps, keeping one hand on the railing, prepared for another surprise underfoot. Aunt Peggy could have been hurt or even killed by the cats just as easily as an unwary guest could have been. Mabel hadn't thought to ask how her aunt had died. The lawyer had said she'd been found on the farm, but he hadn't said anything about the cause of death. It was probably something too routine to mention, like dying in her sleep from an undiagnosed health problem. That was far more likely than a freak accident caused by a barn cat. Still, the cats needed to be rounded up and a new home found for them before Mabel went back to Maine. She already knew her attorney's opinion on pets, that they were a lawsuit waiting to happen, and she really didn't need to give anyone more excuses to try to get money from her. Even moving cautiously in case the tuxedo cat returned, it only took Mabel 15 minutes to carry everything she'd brought with her into the dark front hallway, just beyond the front door. She'd decided to travel light, taking only her laptop, dual widescreen